Recording in progress.
Please rise as you are able. I now call this meeting of City Council to order.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The City of Barrie acknowledges the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, which include the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge the Wendat Nation Huron who occupied these lands prior to the middle of the 17th century. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and recognizing the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land. We're committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. You may be seated. Thank you, members of council. We'll be starting with the confirmation of the minutes. The first item on the agenda today, the minutes of the City Council meeting held on March 29th, 2023 have been circulated. Are there any corrections from members of council? Seeing none, the minutes are adopted as printed and circulated. We'll move on to awards and recognition. There is one item under awards and recognition, and that is recognition of National Poetry Month. Poet Laureate Tyneisha Ternant is here today with us. In recognition of the month as National Poetry Month, I would like to call upon our Poet Laureate to approach the podium to say a few words and recite your poem today.
Good. Okay. So my name is Tyneisha Ternant. My writer name is Ty the Poetess, and I wrote this piece in honor of National Poetry Month. On November 22nd of last year, this wreath was placed on my head as my wildest dreams became true. I was chosen to be the 4th Poet Laureate for the city of Barrie, given a prestigious title to hold for 4 years. And as I happily accepted, on the inside my heart felt as if it was about to burst into tears. For years, I was depressed and hated myself, but I wrote through my pains and learned to love myself. I chose to write as a way to release the emotions and pain that lived inside of me. I was able to heal by the powers of poetry. As I healed, I learned that my past should not be a concern because I was blessed with the ability to write. And with each word, I could give up or I could fight. I could focus on past mistakes or embrace the lessons learned. I could use my poetry to display the strength I had earned. And now, as I stand here today, it's important that I take a second and acknowledge this historical moment being made. My ancestors are proud and smiling in their graves. I can hear them cheering and clapping and laughing, shouting, "Hooray!" I am the first Black Poet Laureate to represent the city of Barrie, also the first mother. I understand that without my sisters and brothers surviving and thriving in this community, standing here right now may have not been an option for me. I sincerely thank you all for gathering here today to celebrate the National Month of Poetry, a style of writing that displays strength while displaying vulnerability. As the Poet Laureate, it is my duty to be an ambassador of the arts, but not just for poetry, which is why I have been creating opportunities for artists of all kinds to participate in open mics, while also creating events that highlight rap and hip-hop culture in a brighter light in its relation to spoken word. I vowed to be the people's poet, and I've only just begun to honor this by ensuring that my actions always show it. It's only been 5 months since this crown was placed on my head, but as you can tell, I am one who does not play around. I take this role seriously because being a poetry leader in this community means the world to me. Through creative writing, I found my place in life. So I encourage you all to pick up a pen and paper and write. Write through your heartbreaks, write through your struggles, write through your tear-filled nights, write through all your obstacles in life. Write down your biggest dreams, write down what you wish you could loudly scream. Write whatever your heart desires, because I promise you, when you look back at that pen and paper, it will not appear the same. Because when you write from your heart, you are releasing the pain, choosing to gain everything that you deserve. A pen in hand is more dangerous than a knife, and a powerful poem lives on after its writer's life. Poetry saves lives. I know this statement is true. So I ask you again to pick up that pen and paper and see how poetry can heal you too. Thank you.
Ty, thank you so much for
First time here, can you tell?
No,
I'm excited though.
That's all good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And I think that you've shown us again and again, and certainly tonight is no different, that you're doing our city very, very, very proud, and certainly the skills and talents that you have. Thank you for sharing them with us and with the world. I wanted to, before we move past this portion, we have a proclamation for the month of April 2023 as National Poetry Month. So I'm going to read that out, and then I'm going to come and present you with this proclamation and certificate. Okay, so
Thank you.
whereas National Poetry Month celebrates poetry in all forms and contributions that poets, writers, and speakers of poetry bring to our communities, and whereas National Poetry Month originated in the United States in 1996 and was first established in Canada in 1998, National Poetry Month now brings together schools, publishers, authors, libraries, literacy organizations, and poets from across the country to celebrate poetry and the vital role it plays in Canadian culture. And in 2023, National Poetry Month celebrates with the theme Joy. And whereas poetry reaffirms our common humanity by revealing that individuals everywhere share the same thoughts, questions, and feelings, and whereas poetry is a mainstay of oral tradition and over centuries can communicate the innermost values of our diverse culture here in the city of Barrie, and whereas thousands of organizations participate through readings, festivals, book displays, workshops, and other events, therefore, I, Alex Nuttall, Mayor of the City of Barrie, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 to be National Poetry Month and encourage all citizens of the City of Barrie to read, write, and create and engage in our local arts and culture. And it's signed by myself, and I'll come and present that to you right now.
stand over there too.
I don't want to brag, but I did just walk all the way over there. We will move on past the reports from officers, as there are none, on to deputations. There are 5 deputations this evening regarding motion 23-G-082, private tree bylaw and offsetting ecological review from the second general committee meeting report dated April the 5th. Please note that in accordance with the city's procedural bylaw, a maximum of 5 minutes is permitted per deputation. I'll call out the names listed on tonight's City Council agenda. Once your name is called and you are joining the meeting in person, please approach the podium to deliver the deputation. If you're joining the council meeting virtually, please unmute yourself or press number 6 on your phone. I'll now begin the deputations by asking Mark Graves of Ontario Commercial Arborists Association to deliver the deputation. Sir, you have 5 minutes at the podium here.
Thank you very much, Mayor and fellow councillors. I am representing the Ontario Commercial Arborists Association. I'm their current president. I was here at the request of some of our members for your general committee meeting, and urban forestry is a very challenging subject, as I'm sure you're all learning over the last month. And something struck me at that meeting. It was a comment that was made during the meeting about how the City of Barrie had the framework that had been developed by their staff could lead to very progressive development of future bylaws, and something to be proud of for the City of Barrie. And although every bylaw does have some minor issues or tweaks that always need to be had, I can say by reviewing it and being involved in the process last month that comment here, it certainly is one of the better bylaws I've seen written. One of the things that really sticks out to me is the use of the term maintenance. I liked how the staff looked at, the resident and their ability to not be restricted by the bylaw should they choose to develop their backyard or develop a pool. And using the term maintenance, which I haven't seen before, allowed for that to happen if you understood the framework with which it was being delivered. The problem with other bylaws is that is often referred to as construction, and construction can be a very limiting aspect. So that was something that really stuck out to me, and I think is very progressive in your bylaw. May need a little bit more refinement for certain circumstances, but I definitely think you're on the right track. The aspect of trying to protect your urban canopy now while you still have it, rather than fight for it later through creation of that tree protection manual. I can see it clearing up some of the concerns that were expressed at that general meeting, and leading to creating that bylaw that you all can be proud of. The challenge that I see in the industry as an arborist is those large lots like some of the older municipalities like the City of Barrie has, where it's a 1940s, 1950s home gets purchased, and there's the opportunity to put 2 or 3 units on that home, often leading to the clear cut of the trees. Using the term construction to try and provide guidelines on how to preserve some of those trees to protect that canopy is something that I've seen all bylaws struggle with in the past. So once again, trying to use the terms maintenance, construction, and development to apply to the 3 different phases, and looking at how to explore the best opportunities for preservations on those are something I do believe you're on the right page, and I would encourage you to continue forward, depending upon how your decision on the bylaw goes tonight. As always, we do appreciate the understanding and desire to look at some of the terminology during the general committee meeting and revise the bylaw to include certified arborists, which was a key component to keeping prices controlled, which was also one of the aspects. And there is something to be aware of, where a report may be needed to remove a single tree or do some maintenance. Often that report should be no more than $400 or $500 at max. Most can be achieved by an estimate or a $100, $200 fee, and a development report, which can cost $8, $9, $10, or even more. Obviously, those reports are for businesses that are looking for development, and there obviously are profits being made. So that can be confusing. And I did pick up on that there was an aspect of confusion with regards to the pricing and costs, so just something else to be aware of. Other than that, I just want to thank you for allowing us the ability to put our input in through this process, and allowing our partnerships. I understand ISA Ontario will be speaking possibly next, and the Municipal Arborists and Urban Foresters, which they'll mention, one of their subcommittees definitely has had a hand in previous urban forestry bylaws. But yeah, I want you to all know that I do believe you're on the right page, and I think working towards where you're going, you will produce something, if it's not today, in the very short term, that you all can be proud of, not only today and in the future, but can also provide the prosperity for both a resident, a small business looking to redevelop, and the larger developers at all. We're always available should your staff want to follow up or use us anyway for future information. But for right now, that's all I have to say. I just want to say thank you for taking a very challenging and proactive approach, because urban forestry is in its infancy, and there's definitely can be a lot of misconceptions out there as you go through the process. So thank you for your time, and I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Graves. Are there any questions from members of council for Mr. Graves? Seeing none, and thank you so much for respecting the timeline as well, sir. I'll now call upon Matt Logan of the International Society of I'm going to not get this right, Arboriculture, Ontario, to deliver the deputation. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It is arboriculture, and you're not the first to stumble upon that word. I would like to thank the mayor and the councillors for allowing our organization some time to be heard on this matter. I'd like to thank Mark from the OCAA, who we work quite a bit with, who just spoke as well. Just a bit of background, the ISAO is the Ontario chapter of the International Society of Arboriculture, which spearheads the certification of arborists under, and right now, internationally, we have 55,000 certified arborists. The ISAO is in charge of the certification of Ontario arborists. And our mission is to enhance and promote the tree care and benefit of trees for present and future generations in Ontario through education, research, and awareness. Just to mirror some of the things that Mark said, a lot of our concerns did get alleviated and responded to in regards to the amendments introduced by members of councils to allow for certified arborists to submit arborist reports and preservation plans as part of a development project. Within the report from the city, recommendation 5 included a recommendation to form a tree bylaw standards subcommittee that includes representatives from the land development and professional consulting community. We as ISAO could support that role through our Municipal Arborist Urban Forestry Committee by providing municipal benchmarking for member municipalities, many of which have had private tree bylaws in force and in effect in the past. Additionally, we can support through the provision of a body of knowledge from consulting arborists as well as production arborists who have had to navigate through tree bylaws and regulations on a day-to-day basis. We just want to recognize that as certified arborists and as the arboriculture field in general, we see the importance of tree preservation, maintenance, and enhancement in the urban forest, and understand that it is not a black and white scenario, and there's a lot to take in and a lot of interested parties. To that end, much like Mark said, the ISAO itself, as well as the Municipal Arborists and Urban Forestry Committee, would be more than happy to answer any questions, be of reference point or just be of any assistance that we can at this point in time. I thank you very much for your time. And that is all from myself.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Thank you for the deputation and information. Are there any questions from members of council for Mr. Logan? Seeing none, thank you so much. I'll next call upon Johnny Corner of North Shore Tree Experts, Inc. to deliver the deputation. Sir, you have 5 minutes to deliver the deputation.
Thank you for the time. I'm sure most of you are tired of hearing my voice because I've talked to most of you. So I just want to echo what Matt Logan and what Mark Graves said. I do appreciate the amendment for recognizing certified arborist as somebody that can be a part of this bylaw. I do really appreciate the bylaw, I'll be honest. There's a lot out there, and this is definitely one of the better ones from the construction point of view. We definitely need to be protecting our urban trees and making sure that we are keeping our canopy growing. My one thing that I had brought to most of your attention to think of consideration is more from as a local tree service company here in Barrie, as well as a resident in Barrie my whole life. The one thing is just making sure that it's done right. So from the construction point of view, I think it's fantastic. There just, I think, needs to be some clarity on specific private tree removals, pruning, and all that kind of stuff. Because I know there was talks about like receipts, keeping receipts for like a year and stuff like that. And there's not a lot of clarity on how that would work. And I think that it would actually cause more work and a lot more headache for not only residents but also for City of Barrie staff, just in order to be able to police this. I mean, we will definitely get our street police that come out and are going to call all the time they see something happening once they hear something going through. So I do think that should be possibly looked at being removed. And then the other thing I just wanted to reiterate is making sure you're prioritizing tree planting. I think getting private residents more opportunities and ways to do it that is more financially feasible for them through grant programs and that to get them to plant trees is really key. I personally already do a tree-free tree program with public schools locally, where we go in and donate a certain amount of trees, and we are encouraging children to not only see us plant a tree, but also see how it's done right. And it is kind of cool when you get a guy that climbs trees for a living coming in, and that kind of helps a little bit. But if done well, we can grow our canopy without actually incurring any more costs on residents, but just getting them to love trees. And the one quick way of doing that is that people can basically get trees for free, basically adopt it as one of their family members, and weirdly enough, they will actually appreciate and love the other trees that are on their property. Just as a personal note, I had a tree that had a due date on it when I moved in. I became an arborist, fell in love with trees, and it is now definitely a family heirloom for our family. So my kids have climbed it, I've climbed it. So if you come about it in order to be able to educate the city and be able to promote tree planting and done right, I think this could be a really great opportunity, and using the urban development that's happening as a conduit to be able to make it affordable too. So I appreciate the time. Thank you for the weeks of listening to me. And if you have any questions, feel free. But thank you.
Thanks, Johnny, for coming out this evening. Are there any questions for Johnny? Johnny, can you just jump back up there for me, if that's okay? We had the opportunity with Councillor Corser to speak last night, and so first of all, thank you for taking the time to speak with members of council and for caring enough to reach out to members of council, and for putting up with my kids flying around in the background when we were talking.
No worries.
There was something you said last night that I just wanted to highlight for the city that I thought was really neat. Can you clarify, I think it was a decade ago versus today, the canopy cover in the city of Barrie?
Yeah, so I thought of doing a little research. In 2013, I think it was November 25th, November or 2013, there was a proposed tree bylaw. I think it's the one that we currently have right now, which is the anything over half a hectare, we'd have a private tree bylaw. In that, I will be honest, it does say that there wasn't an act, like they didn't do necessarily, I guess, direct math on it, but based off the numbers, they were saying is that our canopy coverage at that time was around 23 to 25%. Now, there's an argument to say that we've taken over some of Innisfil lately and stuff. So in the most recent report, our canopy coverage is 30.5, which is actually really encouraging, because that technically means is that the city of Barrie over the period of basically almost 10 years has grown its canopy based off those statistics by anywhere between 5 to 8%, which is really good. And I think also just keeps reiterating the point of planting trees. Regulating people on removing them, people will still be removing them. The only advantage is that there will be a dollar amount on it. And I think that the urban development is what's going to really continue to remove our trees. So as long as we continue promoting tree planting and giving it, making it affordable for people to tree plant, I think that would be, like, you can really change the city in that way. So yeah, I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you so much, Johnny, and thanks for your presentation this evening.
No problem. Thank you.
Next, I'll call upon Kathy Kobach to deliver your deputation. You have 5 minutes to provide the deputation, and members of council will be able to ask questions afterwards if they so choose.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Nuttall and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I do have some photos that I sent, and I'm wondering if they could be put up. So there are, I think, 6 in total, so maybe you could just play them. But this is an oak tree that's next door to my house, and it's probably over 200 years old, and it's in Allendale. So just to give you an idea of the trees that we're most concerned about, which are the big healthy trees, the mature trees, are heritage trees. So if you could just show the next tree. So there, in front of this house was a big silver maple, and unfortunately, just in this past probably year and a half, that tree had to come down, which is unfortunate. It looked healthy to all the neighbors, but one of the big limbs on that tree was overhanging property. There could be damage and probably realistically kill somebody if the limb came down as they were walking by. That tree, I think Kevin confirmed to me, that was over 200 years old too. So that's another tree that in our neighborhood. And you know, those trees are in all of our historic neighborhoods. A lot of these trees, that one in particular is a city-owned tree. I wasn't able to walk into people's backyards to show what kind of trees are in backyards, but similar. The next one, please. They also provide, as you can see, shelter to our animal life in the neighborhood. Not everybody's happy about that, but those, you know, they do provide home to birds and species and animals in the neighborhood. And of course, keep our homes either warmer cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. Can you show the next one? That's a big old linden tree on our street. I love it, and it's also another city tree. So we'll be looking at reaching out to Kevin to see about making that a heritage tree, now that I understand how to do the process. So I'm here to support the upcoming potential changes and updates to our private tree bylaw and ecological offsetting review program. I must say, trying to read through the process of this report was a challenge, as it was for all of you. After watching the General Committee meeting to discuss this issue on April 5th for at least 1 hour, I was pleased to see that our current council is open to changes as presented in the staff report 0PR 001-023. We want to take this time to thank Kevin Rankin and the staff for working on the public consultation sessions, reporting on the outcomes, and clarifying what all of this means. Our ongoing and continued growth as directed by the province does and will continue to impact our tree canopy for generations to come, especially our healthy, large, mature trees in established heritage and existing neighborhoods. Can you show the next one, please? That is the tree that I just mentioned that had to come down. So that was, we were very sad. There were tears in the neighborhood. So we are hoping to protect some of our trees through these bylaws. We are very happy to see that this came forward with a number of positive changes. A strong education program, posted permits, marking of trees to be removed, hiring an urban forester and restoration ecologist, creating policies, grants, and partnerships around tree planting are all welcome steps. Of particular interest, Of particular interest was a comment on page 2, paragraph 11. Annually, staff issue approximately 3 to 5 tree removal permits for subdivision or site plan developments, 5 to 8 permits for single lot construction works, example, pool, installation, additions, and 1 permit for woodlot management, thinning and harvesting. Staff also receive and deny 1 to 2 permit application requests annually for clearing forest without having approved site plan, subdivision, or other approved development plans in place. But the most interesting part of this paragraph is detached accessory dwelling units have resulted in an increase in permit issuance over the last 2 years, resulting in approximately 75 trees removed annually. So that would be approximately 150 trees have come down in the last 2 years. And a lot of the accessory dwelling units are in our historic and older neighborhoods, existing neighborhoods where we have the big large trees that are the big boundary trees that we are most concerned about. These are not small numbers in an urban area. In some small part, these changes will continue to have a positive impact on our tree canopy. We are hopeful between these changes and current setbacks for boundary trees, our canopy will thrive. Status quo or doing nothing at this time in our history of remarkable growth, in our view, is not an option, and we fully support the recommended changes. We thank you for your time and consideration and would be happy to answer any questions. Can you show the last, I think, 2 pictures? No, is that it?
That's an old tree.
Okay.
So thank you for your thank you for your deputation this evening, and we did go about an extra minute, but are there any questions from members of council with regards to deputation? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation this evening. I'll now call upon Karen Hansen on behalf of Christon Construction, Inc. to deliver the final deputation of this evening. There's 5 minutes allowed for the deputation, but before you begin that, I also wanted to say thank you on behalf of the city to Pratt Homes, who are the presenting sponsor for the air show this year. It was just announced yesterday, and thank you for the corporate support and of what I know is going to be an incredible couple of days here in downtown Barrie.
Thank you very much. It was an exciting announcement yesterday, and we're excited for the air show. Good evening, Mayor Nuttall and esteemed councillors. I am one of the owners of Pratt Homes, a 6th-generation home building business in the city of Barrie. Thank you for the opportunity to make this deputation today. We understand the conservation authorities are no longer responsible for replanting fees related to tree removal on private properties in the city of Barrie. Thus, the need for this new bylaw in front of you today. In the past, conservation authorities collected offsetting fees for replanting trees removed within an ecologically sensitive area or natural heritage preservation areas. Plantation sites outside of these regulated areas, whether designated for development or not, were exempt from tree cutting fees. Specifically, the MVCA policy, section 2.3, states project applicability is for development applications on lands which are regulated by MVCA, meaning applicable fees were for wetland areas, woodlands, and buffer areas to be removed. LSRCA exemptions further state ecological offsetting will also not be required for woodlands that are plantations. Your bylaw does not allow for this exemption. We have a site that is directly affected. Our site is at 1001 Essa Road, a triangle site approximately 71 acres in size. There are plantation trees on this site outside of the regulated area and would not have previously attracted tree cutting fees. There are also trees inside the regulated natural heritage area. We are not proposing to remove trees or affect canopy coverage within the sensitive regulated area. We are looking for the exemption to apply only to plantation trees that would have previously been exempt from fees. The site was created as a plantation by the County of Simcoe before they sold it to us for development. If this bylaw isn't corrected, it will result in $1,461,650 worth of unanticipated costs, which would unfortunately get added to house prices once this site is developed. We applaud that it is Council's strategic direction to make Barrie an affordable place to live while still replanting trees across our community. Your priorities specifically state that you are looking for options to make homes more attainable. We join you in this commitment, which is why we are speaking up today. In this sensitive home buying environment, we collectively agree that we can't let costs get this much worse. Having embraced Council's strategic direction is why we believe this additional charge was unintentional, and we wanted to make you aware of this oversight so that you can correct it. My deputation suggests an exemption to this new bylaw for the trees on our plantation site. I have asked for this to be site-specific since this is the only plantation site that I have firsthand knowledge of. If Council would prefer to apply this exemption to other plantation sites, and I understand there are only a few of those elsewhere in Barrie, then I would leave it to you to suggest an appropriate revision to the bylaw. Thank you very much for your time and attention on this important matter. I've invited our environmental consultant, Paul Niels from Orion Environmental Solutions. Mayor Nuttall, if you indulge questions from Council, I would be happy for either Paul or myself to assist with any specifics you might have. And thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much for the presentation, the deputation this evening, and also bringing the item to our awareness. I'm going to go a little bit outside of the ordinary here because I think that the specific deputation had a bit of a broader reach. And ask CEO Prowse, with regards to the deputation, the questions on some of the NVCA policies versus the LSRCA and now the City of Barrie. I believe that there's been some work done in the background on that. Is that correct? And I think there's some amendment maybe coming this evening on that as well.
Yes, Mayor Nuttall, you are correct. Through some further evaluation by staff, we have come to understand that there was a different approach used by the NVCA versus the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority, and I believe Council has in front of them an amendment tonight, which will look to bring that closer.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Are there questions from members of Council this evening? Councillor Rietma.
Mr. Mayor, this is not necessarily to the delegation, but to staff. And I guess my question is, you've heard the delegation, and is it possible for us to define plantation, or do you see that as being something that is reasonable to do within the context of the bylaw?
Mr. Rankin.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Rietma. Certainly something we could consider looking at defining. Right now, the definition of a plantation applies to fruit and nut orchards, tree nurseries, and specific plantations for that type of commercial purpose, but it doesn't deal with plantations tied to forest management practices.
Councilor Irma.
Do you, see this as a reasonable request? And I guess there might be another way to do it, and that is to take a map and put a circle around the plantations, or what we consider to be plantations as well. Is that reasonable?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councilor Riepma, it's certainly something we could consider looking at and come up with some options.
Thank you.
CAO Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I would just add to that for Council's information. I believe the amendment that staff had done some work on effectively ignored the definition of plantation and really looked to address the regional location of the land itself. Those lands that sat within the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority had a different approach from that Conservation Authority. If I can be so bold, a lower bar than the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority, and the amendment, which will be introduced later, I understand, will look to equalize that, Councillor Riepma, instead of addressing the definition of plantation, whether it's appropriate or not, which we felt really wouldn't equalize the two conservation authorities' approach.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be patient.
Thank you so much. Any other question? Councillor Hamilton.
Just a question of clarification, Mr. Prowse, if I can, through you, Mayor Nuttall. So just to be clear then, so prior to Bill 23, the ecological offsetting program was under the purview of the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority and the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority. They handled them, had different approaches. So under the Nottawasaga, any regions in that area, the offsetting program only applied to wetlands, and otherwise woodlands and plantations were exempt, correct?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Hamilton, I'll look to my team to back me up on this, but I think the definitions you used, I think it's broader than that. There's natural heritage features, but there was a specified list that the Nottawasaga applied it to, which I think the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority had a much broader interpretation.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. As your representative on the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority, I had an extensive conversation with our CAO about this too, just to get some clarity. So once I knew this was going to come up, and I can confirm by looking at GIS maps and such forth that it doesn't appear this land fits with. It's just ever so slightly south of what's mapped out as wetlands, so it would not be. Build for, there would still be some permitting involved, obviously on the back end when it comes to the development side of things. But yes, the way they were billing at the NVCA is very different than the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, and it was kind of all built in. And again, how those levels of permitting vary from the two, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that the information that's been provided to us tonight is accurate.
Thank you. Are there any other questions with regards to deputation? Seeing none, thank you so much for the deputation tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall and councillors, and Mr. Prowse. It sounds like you read my deputation, so I appreciate you looking further into it, and I look forward to hearing the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. That is our final deputation of the evening. There are no tax applications or communications, so we're going to go directly to committee reports. Deputy Mayor Thompson, I believe you have the motions for our committee reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kungl. The first general committee report dated April 5th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and it's seconded by Councillor Kungl that the first General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023 as circulated be adopted. 23-G-071 Barrie Hydro Holdings Inc. Annual General Meeting matters. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that Section A of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023, as circulated, be received.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungl, that Section A of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023, as circulated, be received. 23-G-072, report of the Community Safety Committee dated March 22nd, 2023. 23-G-073, report of the Affordability Committee dated March 22nd, 2023. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that Section B of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, as circulated, be adopted.
Thank you. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungl, that Section B of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, as circulated, be adopted. This is 23-G-074. Municipal street naming for streets in the Harvey Road Draft Plan of Subdivision, Ward 6. 23-G-075. Zoning bylaw amendment application for 181 Burton Avenue, Ward 8. 23-G-076. Gulfdale Road, no parking anytime restrictions, Ward 4. 23-G-077. The 2023 tax ratios. 23-G-078. The 2022 year-end development charge reports and treasurer's statement. 23-G-079, the 2022 year-end cash in lieu of parkland report and treasurer's statement. 23-G-080, the invitation to present Downtown Barrie Business Improvement Area. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that Section C of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungl, that Section C of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted. 23-G-081, the zoning bylaw amendment for 303 Cundles Road East, Panati North, Barrie Limited, Ward 3. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that Section D of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Kungl that Section D of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted. This is 23-G-082, the private tree bylaw and ecological offsetting review. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the matter on the floor?
I'd like to put an amendment on the floor.
Do you have it in front of you that you can?
I do. I will go ahead and read the amendment. That motion 23G082 of Section D of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023, concerning the private tree bylaw and ecological offsetting review be amended as follows. That paragraphs 1 and 2 be deleted and the remaining paragraphs be renumbered accordingly. 2, that private tree bylaw 2014-115 be amended under definitions to add the following definition. Certified arborist means a person who is a specialist or expert in the area of the care and maintenance of trees and includes a graduate of a post-secondary education and agricultural qualified by Skilled Trades Ontario, or a certified arborist qualified by the International Society of Agricultural and a consulting arborist registered with the American Society of Consulting Arborists, a registered professional forester, or a person with other similar qualifications as approved by the director. And number 3, that the following be added to the end of the new paragraph 1, quote, with woodlots within an area greater than 0.5 hectares in the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority areas purchased prior to April 5th, 2023 be exempt from these fees. And 4, that the following be added to the end of new paragraph 3. Quote, to explore additional community partnerships and incentive programs, for example, grants and educational programs to plant more trees on private lands. And I can speak to that to provide clarification if needed.
It's moved by Councillor Hamilton and seconded by Deputy Mayor Thompson that motion 23-G-082 of Section D of the Second General Committee report dated April 5th, 2023 concerning the private tree bylaw and ecological offsetting review be amended as follows. 1, that paragraphs 1 and 2 be deleted and the remaining paragraphs be renumbered accordingly. Number 2, that the private tree bylaw 2014-115 be amended under definitions to add the following definition. A certified arborist means a person who is a specialist or expert in the area of the care and maintenance of trees and includes a graduate of post-secondary education in arboriculture qualified by Skilled Trades Ontario or a certified arborist qualified by the International Society of Arboriculture, a consulting arborist registered with the American Society of Consulting Arborists, a registered professional forester, or a person with other similar qualifications as approved by the Director. Number 3, that the following be added to the end of the new paragraph 1. With woodlots with an area greater than 0.5 hectares in the Nottawasaga conservation areas purchased prior to April 5th, 2023 being exempt from these fees. 4, that the following be added to the end of the new paragraph 3. Explore additional community partnerships and incentive programs, for example, grants and educational programs to plant more trees on private lands. Councillor Hamilton, would you like the floor?
Yes, thank you, and through you, Mayor Nettle. I just want to start by thanking staff for putting together a really comprehensive report that looked at the current bylaw and outlined possible opportunities for change and improvements. I will say it took me a couple of reads to really grasp the depth of some of the analysis that was done, so thank you for your patience with my questions and really great work all around, so thank you. The amendment before us that I've provided here does include the updated definition to an arborist, and again, this is to become in line with current industry standards and also based on feedback that we've heard from the field. The second component of the amendment has to do with the ecological offsetting program that we heard tonight again. And just to clarify, this used to be under the purview of the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority and the Nottawasaga. Under Bill 23, it is no longer. And so the City of Barrie is inputting the ecological offsetting fees. But we are allowing an exemption for woodlots purchased prior to April 5th, 2023 in the Nottawa Conservation Authority areas. And this is really sort of a grandfathering because these areas would not otherwise have been exposed to the ecological programming under the purview of the Nottawasaga Conservation. So that's clarity on that piece. And finally, I would say to provide clarity on the last component about the partnerships and incentives program, this amendment does not result in any increased regulatory controls on private trees as a result of introducing new fees or permits. But what it does do is focus on incentive programs, community partnerships, and education to plant more trees, which we heard tonight is a huge success factor in building our tree canopy. And if you've read the report clearly and looked at other municipalities, we can see that the most successful individual tree bylaws focus on incentives for replanting, they focus on grants to plant more trees on private lands, and they focus on education programs. The cost to administer individual tree bylaws are several hundred thousands of dollars, which we also saw in the report. It requires significant staff resources, which we've seen, and you can look to other municipalities, and also significant law enforcement support. Yet what we've also learned from other municipalities is that compliance with these restrictive individual tree bylaws, where there are the introduction of new fees, is quite low. I also was really pleased to see the survey and the work that the staff has done with residents to get their feedback on this as well. And I wanted to point out that a large number of residents surveyed did not know that Barrie had a private tree bylaw. Instead of creating more restrictions and a more regulated bylaw, perhaps we need to spend more time on educating the public, educating our residents on what's in the current bylaw to ensure compliance. As we heard tonight, an individual who provided the delegation didn't even know how to designate a tree as heritage. Perhaps we need to educate the public on how we can designate trees as heritage to protect them going forward. Also, less than 50% of residents surveyed noted a need for individual private trees being further regulated. So there was not a desire for further or enhanced regulation through the introduction of permits or fees. And less than half were in favor of arborist reports being required as part of permit applications, again, as part of that fee process. And they also recognized in the survey that permit fees can also cause financial strain and result in even further lower compliance. And I know Councillor Cursor talked about this at the General Committee as well, and that financial concern on a large part of residents, and how do we handle those instances where people aren't able to pay the appropriate fees or the arborist quotes. So keeping all of that in mind, and again recognizing, which was said tonight, that over the past 10 years, with this current bylaw in place, we have seen a 5 to 8% increase growth in our current tree canopy. So I think, again, the amendments I've laid out tonight really tries to protect and preserve our tree canopy. And I think it does a better job at really trying to achieve that objective without introducing more red tape and regulations. So I'll leave it at that. And if anyone else has any comments or questions.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton, for your comments. Councillor Corser.
I just wanted to get some clarity around the restriction or non-restriction or bylaw on tree removal on private property. My concern is my ward, as many others, have some large old lots and big houses that are being purchased up for only investment and rental. And then they put a second suite in the yard, and now you've clear-cut a yard. There is no incentive for a private investor on a piece of property to plant more trees. It's just a business investment to them, and I'm wondering if there's a second suite going to be put in. Is there any investigation done, I guess through you, Mayor Nuttall, to is there any consideration for, in this current bylaw, for having any investigation on trees being removed for large construction, second suites, etc., large garages on residential properties?
For you, Mayor Nuttall, I'll defer this question to Mr. Rankin.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, the current existing tree bylaw would require permits if the trees are part of a half-acre or larger woodlot. But if it was individual trees on a lot that didn't have a woodlot included on it, there would be no tree bylaw requirements.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Mr. Rankin. Now, so does that mean the new proposed change in bylaw will remain the same, that there would be no investigation or no consideration of trees being cut down on properties that are getting large second suites or large garages on them? So it'll remain the same as it is now. There will be no double checking that or any removal fee or a conversation with an arborist? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, if I understand your question, if the amendment goes through on the floor and the current bylaw remains the same, then yes. This is a simple answer.
So there would not be any arborist or, sorry, I'm just really struggling with understanding this one point. If like I was discussing with Mayor Nuttall, I don't agree with the city trying to control things that happen on private residential property to an extreme. But it's a consideration when the property is not owned by anyone who has a personal vested interest in the tree canopy of the community, if you will. So that is where my concern comes in with larger. So as it stands, the previous bylaw does not call for any arborist investigation fee or anything else, and the proposed bylaw does not call for any type of investigation, arborist fee, etc. Correct?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, correct. The current bylaw in place today does not require arborist reports or fees or permits unless the trees are part of an ecological woodlot, half an acre or larger. The proposed bylaw that was in the staff report would require investigations through an arborist report and permits for all construction-related activities.
Okay, thank you. So that answers my question. Thank you very much. Incredibly confusing, a lot of papers to go through. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Rankin.
Councillor Rittman.
Two questions, I think. The first one is, does this amendment solve the delegation, Ms. Pratt's issue? And I think it does. I see you nodding. Okay, that's a good thing. The second question is, I think, related to Councillor Corser's question, and that is, with the proposed amendment, would there be any review or control of trees that are being removed in the built-up area? I guess that was to Councillor Hamilton.
I'll take a stab at it, but I might defer. I would just read so in entirety in the amendment, number 3, saying that staff in the Development Services and Operations Department form a tree bylaw standards subcommittee that includes representatives from the land development and professional consulting community. Again, we heard Deputation tonight, people eager to get involved in that, to review and update tree protection standards, to explore additional community partnerships and incentive programs, the grants, and educational programs to plant more trees on private lands. So still work being done in that space, again, looking at how do we protect our tree canopy without introducing fees and permits, red tape, regulations.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand.
Sorry, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. First question through the CAO, probably Ms. Banfield would probably be the best. Just to clarify, when it comes to dealing with trees, especially I know second suites were brought up in garages and stuff. When it comes to dealing with trees, that would be dealt with through the planning process, would it not?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harvey, it actually depends on whether or not the tree is part of a woodlot or whether it's a single tree. So if it's a single tree, no, it's not really looked at. If it's part of a woodlot, it is. And we work very closely with Mr. Rankin's team on those permits.
Great, thank you. And I assume probably every lot that we've seen these second suites go into are probably not large enough to be classified as a woodlot. Am I safe in saying that?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harvey, there have been a few that have actually qualified, but what we actually are seeing is just amendments to those permits. Like they start with, potentially one tree, and then as they start getting into construction, they tend to return to Mr. Rankin and need to revise that. So we are definitely seeing those infill projects being quite tricky with the tree removal piece.
Okay, great, thanks. I will support this. I do agree, and I raised this concern last week that this is basically an additional tax on our residents. I'm not seeing or hearing that we've got a significant issue with residents cutting trees down for unbeknownst reasons other than the fact that the tree may have been dead. And without that type of data before me, I just don't know that we can really justify. It appears to me that we're trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. And so I do appreciate the amendment that came forward, and I will support it. And especially too, we've heard from one of our own arborists in town, and I know I had quite a lengthy telephone conversation with him a couple of weeks ago, and he brings a good light to this too from someone in the industry, and bringing his professional opinion about the fact that education is key to this, because I have a feeling if we come out with a bylaw that people won't respect, they'll just cut trees down and just avoid the bylaw and hope that their neighbor doesn't call on them. And whereas I think this route is going to avoid that, and also too, it will allow this committee to form, and we then may see further changes down the road. I kind of look at this as baby steps, and at least we're moving in one direction, which I think is the right direction, but without jumping to the full thing, because I did have my concerns. So I am really happy to see the amendment come forward, and also to this is a reduction in the cost to run this program too, which is another key piece. So I'll leave my comments at that, but I definitely will support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and I apologize I wasn't able to be there in person tonight, and appreciate the amendment, and I think many of us have had lots of conversations with residents about the concern about, the loss of autonomy to make decisions on your property. If I go back to the root of this, pun intended, it really came around the discussion, and Ms. Kolbech had framed it quite nicely, in these mature neighborhoods where the properties were now being, redeveloped into 3 units, and often the detached secondary dwelling was the place where the trees were sacrificed, often mature trees, often healthy trees, and in some situations, really, unfortunately, and we've changed some rules to bylaws to make it less likely. The excavation of trees impacted neighbors' trees, and that was really one of the most challenging situations that we experienced in Allendale, with secondary attached dwellings being able to have basements and be quite large and quite close to lot lines. People's trees that weren't on the property were being compromised. And I appreciate what Councillor Courser was moving towards, and what Councillor Harvey had noted as well. We don't want to, make a bylaw that impacts property owners who are maintaining their property and making changes and such. But I wondered, with the effort around the detached secondary dwelling units and the impact and the number of trees that have been sacrificed for those units, is it possible, is it allowable, maybe through you, Mayor Nuttall, to staff to have an additional requirement in the attached secondary dwelling unit that accommodates for tree cutting specifically? I know we have had some trees saved because of the woodlot provision, so that has happened. But maybe I'll stop there and ask that question as far as, is that something we can add to either the attached secondary dwelling process, or separately, or to this bylaw? Thank you.
Ms. Banfield.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harris. So ultimately, through Bill 23, there is less and less touch points on second and third suites. So the short answer is no. Second and third suites would just be going straight to building permit. And unless there was a bylaw that was applicable law for the CBO to look at prior to issuing a permit, there wouldn't be a touch point to look at trees specifically.
Okay, and thank you. Maybe for those, the vernacular touch point, can you describe a bit more when you say there'll be fewer touch points? Can you give a bit of a definition of what that means?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harris. Previous council and people that follow planning in council closely might recall that the previous council did look at doing what was called a scoped site plan for second suites and detached units that would look at things that we heard were important to the community, like tree preservation, driveway locations, grading. through some of the changes at the provincial level, any sort of scoped site plan work for second and third suites is no longer permitted. They're supposed to go straight to building permit. When they go straight to building permit, there's obviously things, and I'm not the CBO, but there's things that the CBO looks at before they can issue a permit. One of those things is applicable law, and that would be what would be looked at that time.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hearing that with the changes that those controls, such as related to trees, you mentioned driveways and things, are no longer within our scope of authority?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harris, they're looked at through building permit, not through planning permissions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Banfield. I appreciate your comments and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Kungl and then Councillor Ritma.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I have about 3 lines of question. I'll start directing them at staff. So through you, if I may, I'll assume to Mr. Rankin. In particular, in past conversations we've had, and in that broad and very comprehensive report, all of the recommendations, except for maybe one, talked about diameter of trees. And a particular aspect of that report talked a bit about the importance of protecting the mature canopy. And I know we've seen, so I'm looking at the amendment, but I just want to clarify, because most of the questions I'm receiving have to do with, I think, what came forward that did not focus on a recommendation tied to diameter, but did tie to height. And I believe that was also tied to private. And so I'm seeing a lot of redactions, but I just want to be clear that through this change, for those watching tonight that may still be looking at what does that mean around the tree on my lawn, am I correct in seeing that based on the amendments, there's nowhere else in then the, should it be approved, the amended bylaw by which there's a particular height or diameter classification of a tree that would trigger any type of engagement before one could take it down on a private property?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl, under the proposed or current bylaw and what would be then the new bylaw, it would rely on the definition of an ecological woodlot, which is set within the bylaw. So any tree that is part of a half an acre or larger woodlot, irrespective of property boundaries, would be then continue to be regulated under the bylaw.
Great, thank you. So nothing around specific individual trees, nothing related to height or diameter, if I could just clarify for those that were kind of watching and giving comment to kind of the tree size.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl, that's right. There's nothing in the current bylaw related to size or height. It's set on the area of the woodlot ecologically, so half an acre or larger, in any tree that's within that woodlot.
Okay, thank you. My next question I might direct to the clerk because it might be more procedural, and it kind of aligns to what I took from Councillor Harvey's conversation around baby steps. And knowing that this is a really comprehensive piece, it was great to hear the feedback that this is a great step that we're taking. Knowing that there is going to be a subcommittee engaged, my understanding, and if the clerk could correct me if I'm wrong, is that a matter before council, once it's motioned on, cannot come back to council for, I believe, 6 months. When we talk a bit about a bylaw and/or...
Sorry, Councillor, without two-thirds majority.
Right, without two-thirds majority. So it can come back earlier than 6 months. Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Does that apply to it having to be on the matter of the bylaw as a whole, as per this agenda item, or can we still bring amendments to a bylaw that we've approved, say tonight, without having to have that type of two-thirds motion? So how do we treat kind of implementing a brand new type of bylaw and bringing learnings back and actually then making any amendments? Does it still tie to formalities about how it comes back to council?
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl. The amendment that's currently on the floor removes the passage or the consideration of a new bylaw. So we would obviously revert back to the current bylaw that we have in place. So amendments could be brought forward to the current bylaw that is in place without any kind of reconsideration motion.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And then I guess last question, and I didn't hear that it kind of tied to the questioning for Councillor Harris had to you, Ms. Banfield, but if I could, through Mayor Nuttall to you, Ms. Banfield, ask about how would such a bylaw get addressed or applied at Committee of Adjustment? So for me, you know, assuming that some approved developments might go there for changes or minor variances, should it then impact this type of bylaw around tree preservation, how does a Committee of Adjustment apply such a bylaw to their decision making?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl. So Committee of Adjustment's a bit different. So if Committee of Adjustment was actually asked to make a decision and the committee had an issue with the tree, they could actually condition doing a tree study or a tree inventory or conversation about tree removals, like a tree planting. They could condition that with or without a bylaw. If there is a bylaw, then all bylaws always apply forever. But if a Committee of Adjustment, the committee itself could make that part of the decision if they so chose.
Okay, thank you. I'm pleased to see the progress that's been made from, I think, conversations through resident needs to where we are now with, I think, a really great first step around what hopefully will be passed tonight. I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you, Councillor Kungl. And Councillor Rittman, I believe I had you on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm of two minds on this amendment a little bit, and that is I'm pleased to hear that the ecological offsetting is going to go ahead, and that the concerns raised by Ms. Pratt are addressed, because I think that makes perfect sense. I'm a little more distressed about the private trees on private properties, and it's probably because I represent Ward 1, where we do have a large canopy, and that people have a lot of concerns about the tree cutting. However, I am going to support this amendment for two reasons. One, we're having a committee established that are going to look at all the other standards and things that we need to look at. And I'm hoping that they will bring back something that will give us some sort of management of the urban canopy as it exists today. And the reason for that largely is because when you cut down a big tree and you replace it by a little tree, you have affected the canopy. And we really want to maintain the trees that we have. I think that it's instructive when we listen to our experts here that they've all come forward excuse me, and said this is a progressive bylaw, and it's something proactive, and it's something that is showing leadership, and we should be doing that. And so I am going to, I'm very much in support of the bylaw. I'll support the amendment as well because I want to find an alternative, and I hope our staff will find an alternative to adding more burdens to individuals when it comes to trees and saving the city money. I don't think we should be putting in a huge bureaucracy to try to resolve a problem that doesn't exist. And I think I'm comforted by that, by the fact that we have, at least I have, had no further issues with respect to third suites since we passed the zoning amendment that we did, and I forget when it was, but a couple of years ago. I think before we passed that amendment, there were some significant issues with basements and all that kind of thing. I think we may have nipped that one in the bud, and and if we did, then I think we may have solved the problem elsewhere through the zoning bylaw. So those are my comments. I'm hoping that this committee, which I'm really pleased is going to have representatives from the industry and from the experts on it. I'm really looking forward to hearing what they have to say and when they come back to us with their report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rickman. Are there any other questions or comments around the table? Seeing none. Just before we go to vote, number one, I got a few notes here I wanted to throw out there with regards to the amendment. So, City Council, we go through the General Committee portion, then we come to City Council. It does give us the time to reflect. We had an extra week this time around, which I think helped in this scenario. But it does give us the time to reflect and to be able to listen to some of the either questions or concerns or items that are coming through. And so when members of the public like Johnny who are reaching out to us are able to communicate those items, and then we have a councillor, Councillor Hamilton, who's been able to reflect, I believe, a lot of the items that were outlined in the amendment here tonight. It is our processes here at City Hall working, and it's certainly our democratic principles working. With regards to the piece of the amendment that touches on the Nottawasaga. So there's clearly been a difference in the approach by the Lake Simcoe Conservation from the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority. And I don't believe there was any premise inside of staff's decision-making process to increase the regulation. It was to adopt and then process. But in the process of doing that, there was some oversights with regards to the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority. So I believe that through the amendments that Councillor Hamilton has brought forward tonight, there is a consistency with the existing regulatory environment as per the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority being respected. The other piece I just want to, because we want to make sure we're being transparent on what the changes are or aren't. And inside that amendment, there's a date, right? And that date, I think it's April, I have it in front of me, April 5th, 2023. And with my reading of this, it essentially means that if the lands change hands after today, that the grandfathering essentially falls off. And the reason I want to highlight that for the public is this, is that it's both respecting the current regime that existed underneath the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority, but it's actually striving towards a stronger environmental regulation going forward. I think it provides both fairness for current property owners. In the case of the Deputation this evening, a property that was purchased from the county, then regulated by the Conservation Authority, and at the same time, we are communicating what the goals are through this process. Sometimes we can't make all the change in one day. Sometimes it needs to take place incrementally. And so Councillor Hamilton and our staff who quickly changed based on the information that was provided by the Deputant earlier, thank you for doing that, because I think it really is going to help us as a city going forward. Finally, one of the changes through this, I think, is going to be a reduction in the required number of new staff. And at the same time, we do have to hire another public servant here to replace the work that was being done at the conservation authorities with regards to ecological offsets. I just want to communicate based on some of the communications that we've received in the mayor's office. Like, there's already going to be, if not already received, hundreds of thousands of dollars in ecological offsetting happening. And before this, I'm not sure that we could ever say that we saw the benefit. Maybe the benefit was happening, maybe it wasn't. But after this, we can measure it. And if we can't measure something, we'll never know if it's happening, but if we can then determine the results. And hopefully, Johnny can stand up here in another decade and say we've gone from 30.5 up to whatever it is for the tree canopy in our city, and hopefully that aspirational piece with regards to lands in the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority, we'll be able to preserve some of that in the southwest part of the city as well. So I'll call the vote now, and this is on the amendment, and then after the amendment, it'll be on the main motion. So all those in favor? And it carries unanimously. On the main motion as amended, are there any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall. So this was a tough one. Like, we thought we were doing it this way, and then, with some consultation through community members and stakeholders and all that. And I think we've landed in a really good spot with the amendment today. And, a councillor said we were adding a level of, I guess, checks and balances, like a burden. And I'm so uncomfortable with that. We should never add a burden to build. And that's why we're in housing crisis. And I think with our amendment on the second suites, we've slowed them down. And, maybe Ms. Banfield will be able to say, we have them being built now, but that was the rush before the amendment. And I don't think we're seeing much. Now, with the offsets, property lines, to Councillor Harris's point, it was digging the foundation and basement of the neighboring property that damaged a tree, which we've stopped that. They're no longer able to do that. And then with the 7-meter offsets as the existing, we've created the burden. Like, we're not building very many. But on the tree side, I think we've got it right. I really do. And staff did an excellent job. And then realizing everything and coming back and helping with the amendment, I think this is a great first step, and we'll see where it goes. But I don't know if we ever had a tree bylaw problem. I think we had a second suite problem, which created a tree problem. Some people hide behind the tree because they don't want a second suite in their backyard. And I think that's some of the problem. But I really do believe that staff did an excellent job, and I appreciate the time they've spent with a lot of councillors and our stakeholders and members of the community and in the industry, which this is how you get to a good point. So I'll leave my comments there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Are there any other questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, I will... Oh, Councillor Harris, I apologize.
Can you hear me now? Oh, I'm having trouble. Sorry. Jeez. Sorry, guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you. I just I'm having a little bit of trouble with technology, so I just wanted to just check. I know at the end of Ms. Kolbach's presentation, I thought I received a compliment. Did Deputy Mayor Thompson call me an old tree? Sorry. Anyway, thanks. I support the motion.
That was a strong and old one.
Oh, even strong. Okay, well, I'll take that as thank you for the compliment, Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I will start with Councillor Rima.
Yes.
Councillor Nixon.
Yes.
Councillor Kungle.
Yes.
Councillor Corser.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Negussi.
Yes.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes.
Councillor Harris. Councillor Morales.
Yes.
Councillor Hamilton.
Yes.
And Mayor Nuttall.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl. Leave be granted to introduce this bill.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Thompson, I'm going to actually ask you to hold that till exactly, put the brakes on, and we're going to jump past defer business and direct motions and move into presentations prior to bylaws. There's one presentation concerning an update on the Lakehead University Orillia campus. I now call upon Dr. Linda Rodenberg, Interim Principal, and Michael Den Haan, Vice President of External Relations from Lakehead University, to approach the podium to provide the presentation this evening. Welcome to Barrie City Council.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and thank you, councillors, for taking the time to hear from us today. My name is Dr. Linda Rodenberg. I'm the interim principal at Lakehead's Orillia campus, and I just want to acknowledge as I begin my colleague here, Mike Den Haan, the Vice President, External Relations. We've also brought with us Dr. Rebecca Heffernan, who's our Research and Strategic Initiatives Facilitator, as well as Michael Nyson in Government Relations, and Jackie Kent, who's key to our External Relations team, in case you have questions that they might help us with at the end of this presentation. I should begin by saying, I guess to tie it into the tree theme for this evening, that we have laid down very solid roots here in Simcoe County, both in Barrie and in Orillia, and we're looking now to have conversations with our surrounding communities and stakeholders about how we branch out as we move forward. So that's why we're here today. And indeed, as we were driving here tonight, I was really thinking about how close we are in proximity driving here from Orillia, and that there is very much a shared energy and a shared potential that is evident in both of our communities today. And so we're excited to have a conversation about that with you tonight. I'm going to share a little bit of an update, tell you a little bit about Lakehead's story. As most of you will know, we arrived in this community in 2006, and at that point we had 101 students, and the majority of those students were from Barrie. And I was here as a member of faculty at that time and really got to know those students and really leaned into meeting the needs of our students from Barrie. Since then, we've been growing exponentially. We now have 2,104 students at Lakehead in Orillia and also in our Lakehead Georgian Partnership right here in Barrie. We have more than 20 undergraduate and graduate programs, 7 faculties of studies, and what you, I'm sure, see every day here in your community is that we also have 253 employees at Lakehead Orillia and Lakehead Georgian who are deeply committed to participating in the communities that they live in and thrive in. We have a very special community on campus, a community that really is designed to meet the needs of Simcoe County. We came to Simcoe County in 2006 in part because there was a lower than provincial average uptake of university education, and we wanted to lean into that. And currently 94% of our domestic undergraduate students have at least one barrier to education that we are helping them overcome as they come and become part of our small but mighty community. In relation to that, we offer all kinds of mental health services as well as academic services. We also, 58% of our students also access financial aid while they're with us. And we really are committed to providing an accessible education here in Simcoe County and to the students in Barrie. This enables the creation of a unique campus community, and that community has a real impact on the larger communities in which we operate. Part of that impact is an economic impact. Lakehead University in Ontario has an economic impact of $3.563 billion. And at Lakehead and Orillia and in our partnership program, that's $245.7 million coming just out of our campuses here in Simcoe County and this area. We also make a strong commitment to internationalization and innovation, and of course that's at the heart of this economic impact and the way we can lean into it as we move forward. In terms of our relationship with Barrie, it's absolutely a strong one and comes through particularly in our student body. We have 294 current undergraduate students from the city of Barrie. 681 Lakehead alumni are living and working right here in the city of Barrie.
And one of the other ways that we're really, I think, making an impact here in your community is in that internationalization. We have 86 international students on our campus in Orillia, and even more right here in our Lakehead Georgian Partnership programs. They represent 27 different countries, and those students, many of them take up the opportunity to get a work permit following their study. It opens up a pathway to 3 years of employment, and then opens up another pathway to permanent residency. Many of those people are choosing to move to Barrie and work and live in your community. And so these are stories that are really about talent, and it's very important to us that we prepare our students for employment here in Barrie and throughout Simcoe County as they graduate. Students rank Lakehead as one of the top 10 universities in Canada and top 3 in Ontario, preparing them for employment. And it comes through, I think, as a result of our focus on work-integrated learning opportunities right from their very first year of study. So 100% of our programs incorporate experiential learning, and 97.7% of our students are employed within the 2 years of graduation. And I think perhaps more importantly to those students, 91% of them have jobs related to their field of study. And this is a stat that I'm particularly proud of, that I think is related to that unique campus environment that we have managed to create on our campuses. 83% of our students from year 1 are retained in year 2. And so that means that people who come to Lakehead University and to the Lakehead Georgian Partnership programs, they stay in those programs and they're able to return to their communities to work and to thrive. Another really important story that we have to share is one related to research and innovation. We have, as a result of our strengths as an entire institution, a really high level of access to not only the researchers that are doing important work right here in Barrie and in Orillia, but also throughout the province and nationally and internationally, because we have those connections not only to the research faculty members who are doing work here, but also the ones that are active in their research in Thunder Bay as well. We also really focus our research on partnership potential. We have 116 industry and not-for-profit industry partnerships, and many research chairs that are advancing our work on the world stage. Another thing that's really important, maybe even most important to me, it's closest to my heart, is our really important strength in community engagement and lifelong learning. So my second role on campus is that I'm in charge of this particular part of what we do, and we're very committed to lifelong learning as a process. And I think that's really important here in Simcoe County in particular, where we're engaging students from a young age. We go out into elementary schools, but we also have really important programming in relation to high school students. We were at Bear Creek School actually just a couple of weeks ago doing a partnership program with Parks Canada, where we were talking about bear safety training and really opening up some of our doors to students so that they could see themselves and picture themselves within the university environment. We also have more than 750 third-age learners that are learning with us. Right now, we have some people from your hospital that are speaking in a lecture series to this group that's on the future of healthcare in our province. And that's a very, very well-received program. We also have 150 partnerships with municipalities, government, research institutes, and industry. And of course, some of those partnerships are right here in Barrie, and it's great to see Stephanie here tonight in support of the work that you do, and we work very closely with her. I'm going to turn it over now to Mike to talk a little bit about what's next at Lakehead.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, mayors and council. And I'm conscious of your time, so I'm gonna breeze through these last slides. I really appreciate your time. So we're at a bit of an interesting moment in time, and we're asking what is next for Lakehead University. And you can be proud that Lakehead University is one of the highest, and indeed the highest ranked university in the world, Impact University, with under 10,000 students in the Times Higher Ed Impact Rankings. The Orillia campus is now at 2,000 students. Our buildings are full. We're once again looking into the future to grow, and we remain committed to the county as we do that and look at that. This means we aim to grow our student body from 2,000 to 3,500 students. We aim to add 10 new programs that will align with the community, the future needs of this region. And we anticipate that this will increase the economic impact of Simcoe County campus to over $400 million per year. So our future is growth and service. These are some of the programs we already offer today from our Simcoe County campus. You see a number of them have co-op placement opportunities. All those with asterisks have co-op placements and are thriving at the moment. And we're also looking at what's next. What kind of programs can we offer that are both degree and non-degree programming? We're looking at labor market study right now. We have new labor market data that is helping us understand this. It's looking at everything from work integrated learning, and we're seeing very strong themes: nursing, psychiatry, financial officers, mental health support, tourism, education, marketing, public relations, all areas that we do well and we're currently working in. So we're now consulting with regional partners, with Georgian people and services like the Barrie Police Service, CFB Borden, all the major regional partners here, as well as big and small neighbors that we have in the region, to understand what their needs are, how we can align, and how we can work together to meet the region's needs. We know we can't do it alone. As a note, one of our strengths is that we're small, and we do small in big ways. This means that our growth strategy must be strategic, focused, and impactful. This work we're now doing with other partners, consulting, research, data analysis, will help to ensure we do it that way. And that brings me to the end. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It's great to be here with you this evening. Through the mayor, we're both happy to take questions.
Thank you so much to both of you for the presentation this evening, and to other representatives from Lakehead joining us this evening as well. Are there questions or comments with regards to the presentation? Councillor Kungl.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Nuttall. Welcome, and I am one of your alumni that is living and working in Barrie. So it's always nice to see how academic life filters into how people, choose to work and live, and where programmings are so I think, important about how people can apply that in different ways in your partnerships across municipalities and through Georgian College. I did have a question. In this economic climate, knowing that you've got growth objectives, and it's exciting to hear your goals to growing from, I think it was 2,000 to 3,500, if that's correct. I didn't know, and I haven't been following closely, but what are we seeing and hearing from the Minister of Universities and Colleges around investment in secondary education? And are you seeing that there are particular areas of interest, knowing that, so I come from the health field. That was an area from a public health that Lakehead served very well from a reputable programming, and seeing that has continued to, my assumption has been, a strength of universities like yourselves, meeting the need of a health sector that's growing, and we'll see health human resource impacts that, will compound what we are already dealing with. So I didn't know if there are particular programs or if you're moving into more of the trades, or are you finding that you're leaning that growth towards where you're seeing potential investment by a government who might have certain priorities around meeting the needs in the health system?
That's a great question, and through the mayor, happy to address it. We're finding the government of Ontario is investing very strategically and very, very focused ways in higher education. Okay. As it turns out, tomorrow I'm in Guelph to be part of an announcement with the government about a new veterinary medicine program, and the government is wisely investing in that area because the need is so huge. They've just invested in the Waterloo campus. You might have seen a new innovation building that Waterloo's building, and the government of Ontario is investing in that. So we're finding it's very focused, very strategic, and Lakehead's one of the very few universities in this budget this year, and we feel very fortunate about that.
Thank you for that, because I know your Orillia program is heavily, is well regarded around veterinary tech, I believe, and some of the other programs. So very strategic, actually, around that area focus. So great to see that is a spotlight from a government support. Is there anything that you're looking for more specifically from the community of Barrie around, how to support attracting those individuals? Is that something? having recently been in Orillia, you will find that housing is being met on site with your campus or in the planning there, and this is really around unique partnerships with the city in different ways around job opportunities or co-op.
These are questions we're asking as well.
Okay.
And what we're hoping is we can work with the city to better understand the city's needs and how we can align and work together to meet those needs. So it's still early days in that way, and we're hoping we can work more closely with the city on this, actually.
That'd be great. And my last kind of comment or question is it would be very interesting to see what that labor force market survey comes out with, and would welcome if you're able to share that through Stephanie or otherwise, but somehow back with members of council.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kungl. Councillor Rittman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two questions. I see on the on one of your slides there that there are 4 programs that you are offering here in Barrie. Can you enlighten us? What programs are you looking to add here in this city with Georgian, or do you have any thoughts on that at this point?
Yeah, thank you for your question through the mayor. Exactly, those are the questions we're asking now. We're in conversation with Georgian about a few possibilities, and we're seeing real needs in certain areas like mechatronics, electrical engineering. These are areas we do really well in. We've just launched a 4-year mechatronics program, and we think the region is ready for something like that. So these are exactly the conversations we're having with Georgian and with other regional partners. So it's still early days. We're still understanding what that looks like, which is also why these studies are important, and we want to work more closely with the City of Barrie to understand that too.
Just to follow up, thank you for that. I guess my last question is, what's your ask here tonight? What would you really like the City of Barrie to do to support you?
Through the mayor, that's such a wonderful question. Thank you. And it's also early days to answer that question, because I mean, we could come here. We've got big ambitions, and big ambitions come with great need. But we want to be focused as well and strategic. So we want to make sure that our future is going to be bright for everyone, and we're lifting the tides for all boats. We know we can't do it alone, so we have to work with our partners, which includes the City of Barrie. I think this is a bit of a new conversation in some ways for us, which we welcome.
Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. For you to the deputants. In a theoretical scenario where you expand in Barrie and acquire land, grow, or lease space, do you currently have a student housing build-out policy for your existing campus in Orillia or for future expansions? Do you have a policy that dictates if we create an area of growth that has 1,000 students, we will, not want to, but shall create X number of student housing beds?
Through the mayor, great question. I'm going to look to my colleagues. I don't think we do. Yeah, we're currently out of space. Our residence is full on our Orillia campus. That means 300 students? 230 students. We're not quite at 1,000 yet, but our ambitions are that someday we will, and that's something we'll need to absolutely address at some point in the future.
Perfect. And since you guys aren't making an ask yet, it's all good. But for at least, I'm going to speak for myself only. In any future possible capital ask about expansion, that is going to be a huge priority for me. Because the current situation with Georgian has left much to be desired in terms of expansion and missing inventory for student housing that has been affecting the north end quite terribly. And I can say that as a resident of that area for 21 years.
Wow. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Nettle. Just in relation to the growth targets on your slide here, you mentioned the recruitment enroll over 3,500 students at the Orillia campus by 2032. Do you have similar growth targets for the Georgian campus?
That includes the Georgian campus.
It does, okay.
So that'll be all encompassing.
All encompassing, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, thank you so much for the presentation this evening. And I know that I want to give a a bit of recognition to one of our staff members in the mayor's office, Eric, who has worked to set up meetings in the past and start some of the discussions here. With regards to your presentation, and I think that I expressed this in our private meeting previously, that we are incredibly blessed with Georgian College, but there's also a gap in our market here. And when I look at, I'm going to be really, really blunt here. When I see you say that you want to increase your economic impact in Orillia to $400 million, it makes me angry because I don't want that for Orillia. No offense, Orillia. I want that for Barrie. Yeah. And we've for a long time been promised a university by multiple people who've either sought office or been in the education world. And it's perplexing for the residents of the city of Barrie that we have a city of called 160K without a fulsome university in our geographic border, and half an hour, 25 minutes up the highway, a city of 30,000 has a university partner that's looking to increase their economic impact to $400 million. I think that says it all for us. So, as you're going through your strategic plan, how can we help, rather than, it's too early for an ask and it's too early for those types of things. So tell us how we can help impact your strategic plan to, help our residents and our young people specifically be able to have access to that, an expanded role right here in the community.
Thank you for your question and your passion. And if this helps make you feel a little bit better, the $400 million is for the whole region. It's not just the city of Barrie or city of Orillia, the whole region, and includes Barrie. So there's a part of that definitely comes. I couldn't parcel that out for you, but I imagine we could work at it. But I understand what you're saying. I understand your point, and we would love to work with the city to map that out together and see what that means together. I think it's going to take some work together to do it, and we're there. So we'd love to do that.
Thank you. And I guess one other point I just want to leave with you is we have see Representatives of Georgian College in the audience tonight, and we are incredibly blessed with the relationships that have been built by some of our key industry in town and Georgian College. And I think there's a lot to be had there. I think about innovative automation, just an incredible relationship there. I think 60% of their employees get pulled through Georgian College. You're talking about electrical engineering and some of this work that builds into EV and all of those other items. Has your university looked at that side of it, in the sense that your employment seems to be a major piece? When it comes to the city of Barrie, I would guess that there's nowhere else in Simcoe County for sure, perhaps north of the GTA, that would have that type of opportunity for young people right in the community, on transit, all of those things that make it accessible. Is that something that you folks have looked at in terms of, as you're starting to look down your strategic plan going forward?
We have, yeah, and Linda probably knows a little more of how we've done that. I'd say we haven't looked deeply, only enough to say, wow, there is real potential there. And it's probably fair to say, and I feel you probably share this view, that it's not a zero-sum game, that this is work we need to do together anyway. We're good partners, Georgian and Lakehead. We're good partners with others in the community. We're good urban partners as well. And it's work we have to do together going forward. So this is stuff we can work together on, and it's stuff that will, again, lift the tide for all boats.
Thank you so much again for the presentation, and I know that our team's going to certainly be in touch to try to move things forward as you're going through that strategic planning. And there's always an open door here, not just for myself, but as you can tell from all 11 members of council and certainly all of our EMT are here to be a resource for you going forward. So thank you again for making the trek out this evening.
It's truly wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Council.
The presentations being complete, we're now at inquiries. Are there any inquiries this evening? Councillor Kungl.
Thank you. I did have an inquiry, and without necessarily pulling a circulation list, it was a general one, so I'm hoping I'm not putting staff on the spot, but the brightening barriers attention that we are getting has been phenomenal, and I think Caroline Ryan was here earlier. So if I may, I'll redirect my questions to you, Ms. Schlichter, and by all means, get back to me if you don't have them on hand. I read the report and have been appreciating a lot of the graffiti abatement approach through the wrapped brightening barriers cabinet wraps as being more in the downtown core in relationship to some of the businesses in the BA that have sponsored that. I totally appreciate the structure of the process by which different committees and individuals have gone about engaging members of our art community and having that then going through the selection process. Is this a program that has any intention in being replicated across the city in a more broad base, or would that be more of a conversation with you and I individually around how could I expand that particular type of program into Ward 3?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl. So there's a couple of programs in there. The Brightening Barriers one specifically is focused in the downtown, working with downtown patios on sort of those pieces. At this point, given our funding and program, I suspect that our intent is to keep it downtown. This is our third year, and after every year as a group, we reassess interest, functionality. Is this something you continue? Is this something you move on? But I would say downtown patio owners continue to be receptive and supportive, and so we would assess that again after this year to determine. The second program relates to the traffic cabinets themselves and the work that's happening there. And I don't have Carolyn with me or our traffic group, but I do believe, and I will be stand corrected tomorrow morning if I am incorrect, but as I understand, we are working with that. They worked specifically to build up some additional, so instead of 3, I think they're up to 5. And the thought is as we were replacing cabinets around the city, that they would be replaced. So the intent is that it won't just be focused on downtown. The traffic cabinet program would be citywide. Where those are going to land, I don't have that information today. We can keep you posted. But the feeling is, and I believe the intent with that program, because our traffic cabinets are everywhere, that those would be spread everywhere.
If I may, a quick follow-up through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Ms. Schlichter. I'd love to know, I won't speak for the members of council, but I'm hoping to do some resident engagement around that $25,000 I have available through my term. I would really love to merge heritage with the Legion and veterans being a focal point in Ward 3 and some of our road naming. Plus, we've done extensive work with Barrie Police and residents around graffiti. That still continues to be an issue. So for me, it maps well. I'd love to bring this type of concept forward if it doesn't put a strain on the capacity of the current program as it's run, and or if staff could provide any feedback, should it be of interest to other members. Could this be spread if a councillor sponsored a wrap and or partnered with businesses as an engagement opportunity in their ward? Or should we let this program rest as it is, wait to see, if you grow out into other aspects of the city, or can we position an interest forward if we can help to sponsor the cost?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, to Councillor Kungl. If I may ask a question of clarification, is that in reference to the Brightening Barriers program specifically?
It would be the cabinet wraps specifically.
Okay, perfect. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Kungl. I certainly think so, and I believe that there is a report coming forward through the clerk related in general around the councilors' funding. We are providing some information on looking at incorporating, or how councilors can incorporate temporary public art projects and some of that information. So that will be coming forward, but certainly I think we're all open to that discussion and opportunity if that's something that we want to pursue. I think some of it would be dependent on the approach with the cabinets, how they're done. So I'd want some consultation with our folks in traffic through Michelle's team, but I certainly think we could get some information that way.
That's great. Thank you. No further questions, and I'll watch for the report and then reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kungl. Are there any other inquiries this evening? Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Quick inquiry. Ooh, I don't drink that much. I'll give you a coffee. Sorry. I don't get embarrassed easily.
Councillor Morales is wishing that we didn't ask for an inquiry. So
I don't
back inquiry.
I don't get embarrassed easily. Maybe that's an issue. Mayor Nuttall, my inquiry is to the clerks, to the clerk, Ms. Cook. On the circulation list, there is in the section A1 230419 key performance indicators. Is this the appropriate time? I've never done this, to refer this to either reference committees or actually the task force, the priority and planning task force.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales, next week at General Committee would be the appropriate time. That's when we consider the circulation list and any referrals of memos or items.
Okay. Sorry, unnecessarily embarrassed myself.
So you're a week early. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. That's
better than being late.
You're on your game. Any other questions? Councillor Harris, did I see a question up there? Nope. Okay, I think that is it for inquiries and announcements.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I'm just going to triple check now. I just wanted, Mayor Nuttall, through you, just to read this, to add this to the circulation list for next week through Ms. Cook. We got a petition, and what I like about this is there's a couple details here. It was dated March 23rd, so before we started talking about the tree bylaw, and it has content that is kind of indirectly related to a lot of the things members of council were saying. And the petition was essentially to support our green spaces, members of council, to get more of that tree canopy, to get more of that mental health benefits that we have across the city, especially in the north end. And it reads from some Ward 9 residents. And it was basically to you, and I'll read it very quick. Thank you, Mayor Alex, for being available for Sergio to put you on speakerphone during his morning time with us here at the terraces. We were pleased to hear you say that even with your busy schedule, you would like to come and see this situation at Painswick Library. You, Sergio, and anyone else would always be welcome to come in for a chat at my place. Stay well. The specific portion of the letter was this. Our Painswick Library celebrated the 11th anniversary on March 11th, 2023. But this project has not yet been completed. When built 11 years ago, in 2012, the remaining area was to be developed as a green park. Our Painswick Horticultural Society planted the first mature oak tree on the edge of what is now to be the park. We at the terraces have been known to be community-minded since we first arrived in the block in 2001, which this was a new development, a new neighborhood back then. We have been actively engaged in helping to better our neighborhood. Then the writer gives examples on things they've done. And then finally, we now have the opportunity, once again, to help make our walkable neighborhood more appealing. We are using our collective voice with our signatures and letter to request that our long overdue Painswick Library Park be a priority for development in 2023. Members of council, for those that don't have context about what they're talking about, the city owns a small strip of land beside Painswick, and the goal was for it to be developed in the future. They didn't want to do the capital investments right away. But the one thing that didn't happen was the dirt that was moved to build the library was just left there. And I'm not criticizing anybody, but it was like, okay, we'll get to it when we get to it. And now the cost to move it are significant, or enough that it's not a quick amendment. I can't use my community fund to do it. So it's an impediment on something that is a space that we can add. It would complement the mature oak tree that the writer is talking about, contribute to improve mental health, not only for the seniors at the terraces, but for the whole neighborhood. And I think ties in Mayor Nuttall very nicely to kind of the discussion we had earlier. So I would submit it to the clerk and let you make a few comments.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. And Madam Clerk, the petition that was submitted to Councillor Morales and I, can that be added to the circulation list going forward as formally received?
Yes, I can add it to the circulation list.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Morales, for getting that onto the record. I know it's very frustrating in the newer areas when folks are getting through their 10-year anniversary and the parks aren't done. And we had that problem in Ward 10 where Councillor Hamilton is now, and I think we dealt with it. But obviously, there's been some oversights over time with regards to those items. So thank you. Another example of, I think, our processes at work, and hopefully we'll see something done on that site. Any other announcements for the evening? I'm going to go to Councillor Nixon, then Councillor Rittman, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Kunkel. So Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I just want to announce that the Barrie Food Bank is holding a charity softball game on May the 6th at the Barrie Community Sports Complex. It's kind of in the similar vein to the Barn Burner hockey game, which Mayor Nuttall has been doing a great job the last few years looking after. I guess the only difference is in the Barn Burner game, most of the players have some talent, where this may not be the case. Basically, we're taking the Barrie Baycats, kind of splitting them in half and filling both teams with some local folks from the world of sports, media, some community leaders, and of course, some politicians. I should mention we have a couple at the table that will be playing that night. Mayor Nuttall has agreed to join us in some capacity or another, depending on how the foot is doing. And Councillor Morales, who tells me he's a talented catcher, is going to be playing as a catcher for one of the teams. And if coming out and having a good time wasn't enough to make you buy a ticket, watching someone throw things at Sergio for a couple hours has got to be worth the price of admission right there.
All for a good cause.
All for a good cause, yes, certainly. So, anyways, Home Runs for the Hungry is the name of the event. All information can be found at homerunsforthehungry.ca or search it in any social media platform. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Councillor Rittman, before I go to you, I neglected the worded councillor earlier, so I apologize, but I'm going to go to Councillor Harris.
Hey, gee, thanks, Mayor Nuttall. I just wanted to quickly announce that this weekend, the City of Barrie will be hosting the Under-13 AA Provincial Championships, Ontario Hockey Federation Championships for the Under-13 AA will kick off with an event on Thursday night. I believe Deputy Mayor Thompson will be there. And if you want to cheer on your Barrie Colts, they play their first game at 10 a.m. At the Allendale Community Center on Friday. So get out and support your local team. And if you're worried about how the Leafs performed, go watch some minor hockey. It'll make you feel better about hockey and go Colts. And I just want to shout out to Steve Fontaine from Amber Hockey and host Organizing Committee Chair Wendy Massey for all the work they put in to make this provincial event a success in Barrie. And good luck and go Colts, go.
Thank you, Councillor Harris and Councillor Rittman.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. This afternoon, Mr. Mayor, you and I were at the public information session for the Performing Arts Centre. And I just wanted to let people know that you did miss it today, but you can be there tomorrow at the Peggy Hill Recreation Centre from 4 to 7. It's a public information centre dealing with the future of the Performing Arts Centre. Actually, I thought it was extremely interesting this afternoon. My second announcement is that it's only 4 sleeps away. April the 23rd, this Sunday, will be our town hall at for Ward 1. And it's at the Parkview Centre from 2 till 4. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of Ward 1 there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ritma and Councillor Kungle.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, I have a couple of announcements. So one that might touch on other pieces that you may speak to, but I did want to talk a bit about National Volunteer Week. And so from my work in this community to resident engagement and what we're seeing around activating our city around Spring into Clean, I just wanted to thank all those volunteers across our city that make a huge difference in how we function and how we stay connected. And we saw that a lot through COVID, and we continue to see those really strong relationships sustain themselves. So on that note, to segue around volunteers, I wanted to particularly thank the volunteers around residents that took the time to apply and are now sitting on our city committees. And so Communities in Bloom, the committee has launched. We met on Tuesday evening, and we will continue to meet. I believe it's been confirmed the first Tuesday of the month from 4 to 6 p.m. And on that, please watch for opportunities to register for Communities in Bloom. I'm hoping to highlight more formally that last year, the judging results came out kind of at the middle of provincial campaign, but I'm not sure many realized that we achieved gold. And we had incredible feedback from the judges in a spotlight. Communities in Bloom, while we love our flowers, is more than just garden beds. And so it really does touch on natural heritage to climate action and broader strokes. So I welcome you as fellow members of council to maybe even have a friendly competition about who can get rid of their first 25, maybe to 50 registration cards that you might find that I'll be sending around to residents as you're at your local events. The color this year is purple, so while it's too early to plant, if you were planting your gardens, that is the color of the year. And in addition to that, Councillor Hamilton will be joining me Thursday, and I believe we will be finally launching the last of our committee. So Active Transportation and Sustainability starts on Thursday evening. Our first meeting is from 5 to 7 p.m. And all this lovely conversation around Volunteer Week and our tree bylaw leads into Earth Day this Saturday. And so I'm excited to, as we talk about supporting some of our not-for-profits and community agencies, if you want to see me in action on Saturday, I'll be at Tacos and Trivia with Living Green, who do an incredible job, both through active transportation and sustainability, but also with staff around supporting our programs around growing our tree canopy. So if you want to learn more about how you can also get engaged in different elements there, take a look at Living Green. On Earth Day with the Spring into Clean, I want to thank Clean Up Barrie. So this is a group, if you're interested in volunteering with, it's a Facebook page that's open, and they are active, I would say, almost year-round, around cleaning up different areas across the city. But specific to Ward 3, I will be at Little Lake Park Saturday at noon after the Farmers Market from 12 to 1:30, and then Sunday at the East Bayfield Community Park by the basketball courts from 2 to 3:30, and welcome residents to join me as we do a bit of a litter pickup.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. With regards to Spring into Clean, I think our senior leadership team will actually be out at Heritage Park on Friday. So thank you to each of you for leading from the front. I know it's obviously an important thing, especially you think about after the melt comes. There's unfortunately a lot of debris left around, and it's really important that we not only for the aesthetics that we ensure the cleanups happen around the city and obviously the environment, but also in many instances there's a safety piece to this as well. So we always want to keep a nice clean city for obviously our families to enjoy. So thank you to all of the members who are going to be coming out and participating in that from the community this weekend, but certainly thank you to our senior leadership team for stepping up and leading from the front on that as well. Just, Councillor Kunglo, in regards to the items for, I forgot the name of it now, I've just brought it up, but the Communities in Bloom, make sure you tell them about our new tree bylaw, because I think that'll get us some points. Thank you. I'd like to proclaim April 25th as Parental Alienation Awareness Day. The city is looking for input on the preliminary design concepts for the Performing Arts Center proposed for the former Fisher Auditorium site. Members of the public can attend the session on April the 20th between 4 and 7 p.m. at the Peggy Hill Community Center. For further information, please visit barrie.ca/performingarts. The City of Barrie will be hosting an affordable housing symposium on May the 4th at the South Shore Community Center, 205 Lakeshore Drive, between 4 and 8 p.m. The event will feature guest speakers, panel discussions, a screening of the documentary Searching for Home, and the opportunity to provide feedback on the city's affordable housing strategy. Participants must register in advance. For further information or to register, visit buildingbarrie.ca/affordable housing. The Barrie Air Show will be returning to the skies over Kempenfelt Bay on June 10th and 11th. The event will feature fun programming all weekend long, demonstrations, and the iconic Canadian Forces snowbirds. For further information, please visit barrie.ca/airshow. Nominations are now open for the 5th Annual Mayor's Innovation Awards. The awards celebrate the year's most creative solutions from businesses, individuals, and local community groups. The theme this year is Beyond the New Normal. Nominations are open to Barrie businesses, organizations, and individuals from all sectors, stages, and sizes. The submission deadline is May the 28th. For further information, visit investbarrie.ca/innovation awards. The City of Barrie is hosting an online rain barrel sale until April 30th, 2023. Rain barrels can be purchased by residents online at enviroworld.ca/Barrie. For further information, please visit barrie.ca/water conservation or call 705-726-4242. The City of Barrie is creating a new comprehensive zoning bylaw, which is designed to implement the vision and policies of Barrie's adopted official plan. Visit buildingbarrie.ca/zoning to review the first draft document, share your input, and learn more. The deadline for feedback is April the 28th. The City of Barrie will be participating in the 2023 City Nature Challenge from April 28th to May 1st. This will be the city's first year participating in this international event, motivating people around the world to find and document wildlife in their communities. Community involvement is encouraged for this free program, and a kickoff activity is scheduled for April 28th at Sunnydale Park. For more information, visit citynaturechallenge.org. The City of Barrie would like to remind all residents of the importance of complying with the city's bylaws and consequences of not following them. Enforcement services will begin a more proactive and zero-tolerance approach to the enforcement of city bylaws. Bylaws are in place to maintain safety, order, and quality of life for residents, including property maintenance, animal control, parking. To learn more about the city's bylaws, visit barrie.ca/bylaws, or for residents who have questions or concerns about the bylaws, contact Enforcement Services at 705-739-4241. The next Affordability Committee and General Committee meetings will be held on Wednesday, April 26, 2023. We will now move to bylaws. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that lead be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Oh, sorry. Bill 034 and 035. Pick a number.
Deputy Mayor Thompson was looking for a blanket approval there forever. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Kungl that leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bills 034 and 035. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the bills? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And it carries. Okay, Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that Bill 36 concerning the zoning bylaw amendment for lands known municipally as 303 Cundles Road East, submitted by Pender North Limited, be deferred till the next City Councilor meeting scheduled for May 3rd, 2023.
We have a deferral motion moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungl, that Bill 36 concerning a zoning bylaw amendment for lands known municipally as 303 Cundles Road East, submitted by Panati North Barrie Limited, be deferred to the next council meeting scheduled for May the 3rd, 2023. This is motion 23-G-081 and 303 Cundles Road East. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the deferral motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bill 037.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Kungl that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be ready first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 37. Are there any questions or comments regards the bill this evening? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that Bill 038 concerning the bylaw to prohibit and regulate the injured and destruction of trees on the private property in the city of Barrie be repealed by law 2014-115 as amended, be withdrawn as this bylaw is no longer required.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungl, that Bill 038 concerning a bylaw to prohibit or regulate the injuring or destruction of trees on private property in the city of Barrie and to repeal it with bylaw or repeal bylaw 2014-115 as amended be withdrawn as the bylaw is no longer required. Seems to be a very tense issue for both the Deputy Mayor and myself. We can't even read it right. This is motion 23-G-082, the private tree bylaw. Are there any questions or comments with regards to this? Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Just a point of process with the clerk, because I know the new bylaw that we voted on tonight isn't going to be coming through as a bill for, I guess, at least 2 weeks. So would it be appropriate to repeal this 2 weeks ahead of the other one being passed?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harvey, we have an existing tree bylaw, and I can't recall the number off the top of my head, but this bylaw or this bill was on the agenda based on the recommendations from General Committee last week, because we were expediting the bylaw being passed. But now that the amendment from Councillor Hamilton earlier withdrew a new bylaw being passed, we no longer need this bylaw.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 039. Confirmation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Kungl that the confirmation bylaw, the leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be ready first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 039. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the confirmation bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's approved. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay. I see Councillor Corser. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kungl, all those in favor? Carries. We adjourn at 9:20.